What's going on, boys? Thanks to our patrons and Fiverr customers, subscribe to our Patreon free for behind the scenes stuff, arm yourselves, TV stuff. And here we are, straight into the Sopranos YouTuber pipeline. Kicking straight up to Borko, never enough video count for Cineranter, and now us, Shortsless, about to discuss Tony Soprano and loyalty. And now that we've passed 30 seconds, I am very interested in the fuck that honor and loyalty shit line. This line comes following Bobby Bacala's introduction to African American youth culture. He's in the hospital, has the big boss eye patch going on, the very big boss, but he wanted to be totally sure Tony got his money despite his situation. And everyone is ego sucking him about how loyal Bobby Bacala is to his capo. But then Tony says fuck that honor and loyalty shit, and he lays out how or why this move is not about honor and loyalty, it's about self-preservation. And Silvio looks a little off-put by it, Carlo's a bit off-put by it. It's an off-putting line. And this scene interests me because I don't think Tony is wrong about or with his assessment of Bobby's move here. Bobby's a criminal, he isn't a good guy. We get to see what he's actually like inside when he deals with Silvio, when Silvio is acting boss. Silvio is too rational and considerate to be the unfair, ugly person a boss needs to be, at least the sort of boss Tony is, to keep people like Bobby in line, because you can't afford to permit any weakness. And with Tony's comment on a reasoning level and on a reality level, I think Tony's absolutely right. This play, this shtick, is an effort for Bobby both to avoid punishment and to butter up to the boss. It's false. And I think the reason Tony drops that line and explains it comes from his agitation at seeing people play up as this moral, honorable thing a move that is basically self-preserving. Tony doesn't want a guy who is full of shit to get honor and loyalty credit. On those levels, I completely agree with Tony, and Tony is completely right. However, it's important to note people's reactions to that line. People in Tony's crew. That bothers them. And I think it bothers them on two different levels, or it should be a concern on two different levels. On the first level, you have the dumber side, or the side that would believe that what Bobby did was honorable, and by shitting on honor and loyalty, fuck that honor and loyalty shit, Tony is helping break an illusion that in the long term serves him. Because let's say, looking at the people in Tony's employ, they're 50-50. Half are basically self-preserving, but they put on the honor front, and then the other half actually believe in the honor front. It's not a front for them. By demonstrating it's all an act, yes, you do kick the legs out from the people who are fake, but you also destroy or dilute that source of values for the people who do believe in all of it. With the guys you don't believe, you're destroying their sense of security because, what is it, in The Last Dawn, discussing gamblers and gambling, the Xanadu likes to look stupid because it makes gamblers more confident. So they're less inclined to be loyal because they don't even think they can fake it anymore. And then with the other half, they now understand they've been duped with these values. They're being played. So in Tony's effort to beat someone with reality and deny them favor points, he undermines the pygmy throne he's sitting on. And that's where that second level comes in. Silvio doesn't approve of Tony's sentiment here, but I think it's easy to interpret it as Silvio disliking it because Silvio is honor and loyalty embodied, But Silvio's really smart. I think he knows Tony is right about Bobby and about the way most mobsters use that honor and loyalty shit. But he's aware Tony is degrading a long game shield in an effort to make a short game point, if there's even any benefit at all. You need people to think either it means something or it doesn't. And even with the people who don't really believe, if you blow up that shroud, if you lift up the curtains, then you don't know what they're liable to do. They're liable to do something drastic, which is what Carlo does by the end. He realized it didn't mean anything, and he took the route best for him and his son. And this all makes me think about the way Vito Corleone conducts himself. When you get into the Puzzaverse, you realize Vito was not a good guy in any way. And not just in the, well, he does terrible things, but he's a good family man sort of thing. That's not even the case, at least not entirely. Vito is, at his base, a survivor. And at the end of the Sicilian, that is the lesson he imparts upon Michael. And I think that informs Michael's evolution. That is one of the core lessons he did take from his father. He just doesn't have Vito's patience for the bullshit of the masquerade. But it's not bullshit, it's a very important tool, and that's why Vito is the best. I think you see it most clearly, most nakedly, in the Little Italy renting situation with the landlord. Woman gets thrown out of her house or her apartment because her son has a dog and he's not allowed to have one. Woman goes to Mama Corleone for help. Mama Corleone takes her to Vito. Vito approaches the landlord. He tries to work out a deal. Landlord doesn't know who he is, thinks he's trying to intimidate him or something, which Vito is, actually. But little time passes. Landlord comes to Vito's, I was about to say place of business, but I think that's the movie. I'm pretty sure in the book, landlord goes straight to Vito's home and they have wine and a little discussion about the neighborhood. And then the landlord corrects the situation, does not ask Vito to pay anything. So basically, the woman gets what she wants, Vito gets what he wants, but I don't think Vito is operating on the, or strictly on the helping this woman level, but more in the helping the neighborhood at no real cost to him is going to make him look a lot better and to make things a lot easier, which it does. He's right. But you don't get to see straight inside Vito's head a ton, even in the book. But in the book, that's one of the few moments it's made very clear everything that's going on in Vito's little resolution conversation with the landlord is phony. The landlord is so happy and he's so kind and he's such a good Christian and Vito's such a good Christian and he's such a good guy for helping this woman out. How could the landlord not have seen? He'll do all these things, doesn't cost him anything, won't cost anyone anything. And I don't remember the exact words. I think it's described as, oh God, it was like an intense play or something. Everyone played their roles. But it's made clear this is intimidation, but it works because it's never naked intimidation, at least in the interactions. Both parties know what's actually going on, but it is so important, even when it's just the two or three of them, it is so important it be presented as this positive thing. And that actually goes back to, Jesus, I think also in the book, Vito explains to Michael how to tell somebody no, and he says you can't do it often, but, or at least in terms of loved ones, but when you do, it is vital they don't feel like it's a no. They feel like it's their idea not to do this thing or to do this other thing, or to make them want to do what you want. That is key, and that is how Vito operates in all areas. he has everybody fooled. Not just the people in the story, but the people outside the story too. I think that's one of the reasons Book Michael is so interesting. He's aware of what his father is and how he does things, and that's why, despite taking the lessons, Michael rejects these niceties games, and in the movies pays for it, and in the book, I guess you could read it a couple different ways. Either by the end, Book Michael has taken on that niceties lesson of his father, or there's going to be a big change, and that's why Kay is as concerned as Mama Corleone is about her husband's soul. Book Michael is weird, especially compared to movie Michael when they're actually very similar. It's just. Fuck, it's like the way they use the same personality is very different. But this isn't a Godfather video. The reason I bring it up here is because it demonstrates Tony's weaknesses as a boss. He's like a less calculating movie Michael. You're shooting yourself in the foot by trying to boil everything down into harsh truths, operating more on naked power and intimidation than on soft power. And that's odd because Tony is a really great manipulator, but he doesn't have the patience or the farsightedness to make it work. He can't fucking sell it. And actually, that probably ties back into Tony's ego. Tony feels he needs everyone to know he's in control. Whereas Vito is totally in control, but he's not so proud he can't let anyone else think they're in control. Because thinking or letting certain people think they're in control cements your actual control. It's a pride issue. And that's really funny too, actually, because that's exactly what Tony did with Junior in season 1. So where did that capacity go? Maybe it was just Tony's ego falling apart? I guess that doesn't really matter, but it's fascinating to me the way Tony is right about loyalty in the mob to his own detriment. And that probably ties in with the gambling too. It all ties together, it's all connected. Tony is a true degenerate. He's so concerned with short-term victory and power, he denies himself long-term victory and power. We all have our flaws. Tony's is pride. Like if you enjoyed, subscribe if you haven't.